Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are located. My name is Roberta Lynn Humans. I am the Lead Grants Management Specialist in HUD's Office of Native American Programs. I've been here since about middle of 2007, and I figured out this morning that this is about my 10th, maybe my 11th ICDBG webcast. So you would think I could do it in my sleep, but every year something changes. So bear with me as we go through this. First of all, I would like to dedicate this webcast for the 15 ICDBG NOFA to my father, who passed away last year and with whom I wish I spent a little bit more time, was working very hard. I think this is his duck. I think he painted it, so that's why we have the duck on the table. Secondly, I would like to give a shout out and say that I really appreciate the colleagues in my office here in DC because with two NOFAs, grant awards, NOFAs at the same time, I've been quite frantic, and they've been very supportive and very patient with me, and I would like to appreciate them. Third, I hope, shout out to them. And third, I hope that the information that I impart to you today is helpful, that it gives you ideas about what to do when you apply for your grants, and I hope that as many of you as can be funded are funded. We will be posting this webcast on the HUD YouTube channel probably tomorrow for folks to look, for outside viewers to look at, and then it will be posted internally by a different department at HUD on the HUD website a little bit later, but anybody can look at the YouTube one. So first of all, I would like to say that applications are due on October 22nd. Initially, we had them due on the 14th. Then the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary sent a letter out and had a date of the 24th. That is a Saturday. We don't accept NOFAs on applications on Saturdays. The official date, the date in the NOFA that is now posted on Grants.gov is October 22nd. So that's a week longer than the first NOFA. So hopefully that'll help some of you out that need time to get approvals. What we will do today is I will summarize the posted NOFA, the NOFA that was posted for fiscal year 2015. This was posted at the very last day of August, or near the last day of August, on the 28th. I'm going to highlight some of the requirements that are in what's called HUD's general section. The general section applies to, has requirements that apply to all HUD programs, and not just ICDBG, but it's an important document to look at too. I know some of you have applied for the ICDBG mold remediation grants. I cannot tell you who will be getting those grants. We expect to make the announcements next week. There are requirements that the members of Congress have to be informed, and a lot of things that need to be done with that. But we expect next week. I don't have an exact date, but I urge you all to stay tuned for that. There'll be information on HUD's website. Those of you that received funding will get a letter. Those of you that didn't will also get a letter a few days later. So stay tuned for that. So without further ado, what's new in 2015? The NOFA, for the first time, I think it's the first time, has a summary of what has been changed in the NOFA. We also posted a program guidance for the ICDBG NOFA in 2015, and we've posted it on the HUD website, ONAP's website, Code Talk. I urge you to look at the program guidance, but I wanted to let you know that the summary of the changes in the NOFA, that is early on in the NOFA, I think it's like page 3 or something, does not include each and every change. It's a summary. It went through a few incarnations. What I do urge people to do is to read the entire NOFA from front to back several times. It's a dense document. Sometimes there's conflicting language in there. I know some of you have raised questions about things in the NOFA that don't seem to make sense. Well, sometimes they don't make sense to me either. There are some requirements in the template that we cannot change. For example, in the NOFA, it says ask for a waiver of the electronic application requirement from Glenda Green, who is the Grants Management Director. That is a template issue. You will be requesting waivers of the electronic application requirement from your area administrators like you have done for those of you that have applied in the past for years. I will explain that a little bit later. But on the slide, you'll see, for the first time, there are no HUD policy priorities. They were confusing to many grantees, and they put certain grantees at a disadvantage because ICDBG program is a broad program, can be used for any number of community development purposes, and we felt, and we got a waiver of the requirement that to level the playing field for all types of ICDBG applicants, we were allowed to eliminate those. We are giving points for up to maximum of 2 points for applicants that are working with and located in promise zones or sustainable communities. We'll talk a little bit about that later. We also are going to have more points if you can show how you've involved the community in assessing what the need is for the program. More language about what you have to do if you're going to acquire land for housing. And then we also are requiring you to state in the NOFA, in your narrative or sometimes elsewhere, what you are going to do. And we are going to now say if you don't make that statement in your narrative, in your application, you will not, you won't be getting credit for it. You have to state things. And we'll go through those a little bit later also. So we're going to talk about the purpose and the overview for those of you that don't know. For those of you that do, you'll hear it again. We'll talk a little bit about who's eligible to apply, what you can use the funds for, some of the requirements. And what I really want to spend some time on is how to submit your applications and avoid pitfalls, because I know that some of you have tried over the years to get applications in and either didn't get them through the electronic requirement or got through and then there were problems with not having submitted anything. I should point out, though, I'll say this at the end, that we are not allowed to help you, neither I or the area ONAPs, the regional offices around the country, are allowed to help you prepare your application. All we can do is provide clarification of what the NOFA means and what we're looking for. So I just wanted to let you know that. We will not be taking questions and answers during this webcast because it's only me making the presentation. There's nobody to facilitate that. If you have questions, I suggest you contact your area ONAP office after this webcast. Sometimes they'll touch base with me. We will probably also post a Q&A about common questions that we've received prior to the webcast or after the webcast. And we will post those on the ICDBG page of the HUD programs on the HUD website. We'll talk a little bit about how we're going to screen your applications. There are 5 rating factors. We'll talk about those, some of the criteria, and then we'll talk about who to talk to when you're having problems submitting the application at the last minute or ahead of time. So how much is available? It's about the same amount as it has been in the recent years. Last year, the funding was $66 million. However, $6 million of that was for mold specifically. This year, there's $60 million. However, if we have leftover funds from the imminent threat grant set aside that we don't use, we roll those into the competitive grants. So you'll see there's about $58, almost $59 million to be divided up among the 6 regions. And then we are also setting aside $3.960000 for imminent threat grants. Even though the year is almost over, we will continue to have funds for imminent threat grants until they're used up, and we'll talk about that in a little while also. So where does ICDBG come from? The statute is on the slide. It is, we get 1 to 2% of the funding that Congress sets aside for the regular Community Development Block Grant Program that started about in the 90s. I forget which year exactly. The regulations are listed on the screen. Regulations are, of course, dense. There's a lot of stuff in there that may or may not apply to you. Well, actually, they all apply to you because if you get funded, you have to comply with the regulations. These regulations have not changed much over the years. but they are our regulations and they must be complied with. So we will refer to those often. During the NOFA, you'll see that. The regulations and the statute are on our website. So I don't think everybody has time to read through those in detail, but if you have a question, you might want to refer to those. So what can it be used for? As I mentioned earlier, it can be used for a lot of purposes. Essentially, the statute and the regs say it's to develop viable Indian and Alaska Native communities by creating decent housing, suitable living environments, and economic opportunities, primarily for low and moderate income persons. What's a LMI? That's what that stands for, low and moderate income. The regulation spells out that it is 80% of the median income for the area. Unlike the IHBG program, which is our bigger program that gets distributed by formula to all eligible tribes or tribally designated housing entities, the ICDBG criteria, LMI definition is 80% of the area median income, not you don't factor in the national median income for that. So I just wanted to point that out, and the area ONAP can tell you what that is. If you don't already know, it's also published on HUD's website what those levels are. So what kind of grants are there? We've talked about that a little bit. There's that set aside of imminent threat grants. That's a rolling pot of money. We have money now. We'll talk about what that can be used for. And then what's called, I'm sliding, single-purpose grants, which can be used for lots and lots of different things. These are competitive grants. So unfortunately, not every worthy grant gets funded, but we'll talk about how that works. So imminent threat grants, talked about that a little bit. The NOFA has some changes to the imminent threat grant requirements. But what hasn't changed is there is no area office allocation for that. There's almost $4 million. We keep those funds at headquarters. The funds are used to remove imminent threats to health or safety. They can't be used for things that you've known about for a long time and that you just haven't applied to address. They can't be from deferred maintenance. They can't be to fix a house for one person. There's regulations there. They're in subpart F of those ICDBG regulations that I mentioned earlier. The ceiling for the grants is $450,000. You don't have to ask for that much, but that's the most you can get. However, if you are located, or your project that you want to address is located in a presidentially declared disaster area, you can be eligible for up to $900,000. You have to have that presidential declaration at the time of submitting the application. Can't be reoccurring, as I mentioned, has to be unique and unusual. Again, it can't be one person. It has to impact the entire tribal service area. And it's what you're going to propose to do with the funds is got to have a reasonable chance of alleviating the problem that you're concerned about. We're eliminating 2 steps. We're not going to have a letter to proceed in every case. In some cases, we might need to have that for those of you that have applied for these grants before. Now what we're asking you to do is, when you realize that you want to apply for these funds, you need to submit the things on the slide. This is spelled out in the NOFA. Everybody has to submit an SF-424 for any federal grant. That's a standard form. What's the threat? Describe it. Somebody's got to verify that it's a threat, not the tribal chairman, not the housing authority director. It's got to be an independent entity such as BIA, Indian Health Service. It doesn't have to be those 2, but it has to be independent. We want the budget form. Because it's an emergency situation, we want you to be able to address it quickly. So we want you to show us that you can deal with the emergency in 12 months. And we want to also see that there is a tribal resolution that says that the tribe itself doesn't have any funds to address the problem. Sometimes the tribe doesn't have enough funds to address the problem, so that should also be addressed. Here are some examples. We've used it, or tribes have used it, for asbestos removal, water systems that have failed, repairs to homes from floods, and it also can be used to remediate mold, just like the regular competitive ICDBG program can. And then recent years, we've had uranium in wells. We have a few pending now. We try to review them as soon as we can. We do have funds for those. So if you have anything that you think could be an imminent threat grant and it is not longstanding, you might want to touch base with your area ONAP and see. They would check with us to see if there's any funding, and then you would submit the information to them. It doesn't get submitted electronically, so that's good. There's a few new definitions. Well, there's actually one new definition. There's a big, long definition section in the NOFA about things that are critical. There's a lot more definitions, but we have a list of some of them there. And I'm going to flip through a couple of pages here. We were asked to put a definition of the community-based development organization. We basically cite the regulation because it is a very long definition, but in some, you have to show that you are a nonprofit, that you have low-income people on the board, that you are an SBA organization, or sometimes there's other criteria without going through them in fine detail. If the reason we put this definition in here is because it gets confusing sometimes. Only CBDOs, that's the acronym, we must have acronyms, only CBDOs can be the developer of new construction with ICDBG funds. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. TDHEs, or your tribally designated housing entities, are not automatically eligible. Sometimes they are, but a determination had to have been made by the area ONAP. And if you have any question about it, don't submit your application assuming that it is eligible. Check with your area ONAP first. I don't have a list here in headquarters. The area ONAPs maintain those. There's a key definition in there. Again, there's more definitions than these, but I wanted to highlight this one because you get different points in the scoring, in the rating factors, based on whether you're new or old. Not new or old. I'm old. New or a current applicant. And a new applicant is one that has either never had an IHBG grant or whose grants have been closed for more than 12 months prior to the application deadline date. That would be October 22nd. So that's essentially what that means. Okay. Single-purpose grants are the competitive grants. There are dollar amounts allocated to each area ONAP based on the regulatory formula. We run the formula once we know how much money we get from Congress and how much money we have in carryover. There's a minimum of $1 million to each area region, ONAP region, and then we also run the formula based on what's on the slide. Region share of tribal population, poverty, and overcrowding. Then we post that NOFA, that dollar amount in the NOFA every year. I don't have well, actually I do have the NOFA here from last year, but if you have looked at the 14 NOFA, these dollar amounts per region is a little bit more than it was last year. Not a lot, and not as much as we would like, but it's a little bit more. And I should add that tribes or tribal organizations only compete against the other tribal organizations and tribal applicants in their region. So in other words, tribes in Arizona don't compete with tribes in Alaska. It's basically a regional competition. It was a little bit differently in the mold funding opportunity we just had. That was a national competition because Congress said it was, but ordinarily ICDBG funds are reviewed in the area ONAPs, and they're also rated against each other. There are grant ceilings in the NOFA. It spells out what they are. I think I have here what they are. Yes, I do. But before I get there, it applies to your entire application. So if you have a $600 ceiling for your application, you could propose a $300 housing rehabilitation project and a $300 road project, infrastructure project, but the total cannot exceed $300. It's one of the screening factors. We won't even review your application if you ask for too much money or over the screening amount. However, I wanted to talk, and there's only one application per tribe. So if the tribal organization applies and the tribe applies, the tribe's application will be reviewed. Make sure you coordinate with everybody in your community on who's applying for what, because we can't fund two. Tribal organizations can combine the ceilings for projects like a health clinic that is going to be used for a lot of different tribes. It happens sometimes in the Southwest and in Alaska. They'll build a health center that a lot of smaller tribes, will be eligible to participate in. You can do that. Or sometimes tribes can combine. They can all apply for the same project. That happened at least one time I know of I think it was in Southern Plains, that several tribes applied for. They used their ceiling amount to apply for a bigger project. Now, what happens sometimes is not every single one of those individual tribes would get funded, but that is one way to do it. If you have a project like that, I would urge you to talk to your area ONAP again about that, because those are a little bit more complicated. These are the ceilings. These ceilings, we consult with the area ONAPs and we discuss what these would be. They've been at this level for the last several years. The 4 tribes, 4 regions on the screen, those are the grant ceilings. And for tribes in Northern Plains and the Southwest regions, because there's so many different sized tribes there, it's based on the population that resides on the reservation at the time of the application. If you have any questions, again, about that, I would contact your area ONAP on that, because they have a better sense of what that would be. There is only one tribe in the Southwest that is eligible for that large amount. Most tribes are not eligible for that. Then we also have what's called rehabilitation cost limits. It only applies if you're doing a housing rehabilitation project. This is a carryover, I believe, from the regular CDBG program. So what this means is, and again, we've changed these over the years. I think a year or two ago, Alaska's went up to $75,000. Southwest has gone up to $65,000. That doesn't mean that the housing unit will only cost that much, because obviously in Alaska, a unit of housing to rehab is probably going to cost more than that. What that means is ICDBG funds, there can be no more than that amount of ICDBG funds in your housing rehab project per unit. So you want to make sure your budget reflects that. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, the regulations, 124 CFR, Code of Federal Regulations 1003. If you are funded, if your application is funded, you must comply with all of those regulations and any policy guidelines that we put out after that. And there's other regulations that are cited in the ICDBG regulations that one must comply with too. That will be spelled out in the grant agreement if you get the grant. So I just wanted to point that out. There's a lot of things, lead paint rules, Uniform Relocation Act, environmental requirements. We'll talk about some of them later. Okay, so who can apply? First of all, like with many federal programs, individuals cannot apply. Every year I do get some requests for that, or I'll get a request from a nonprofit that might work a little bit with tribes but isn't a tribal organization. You must be an Indian tribe, band, group, nation, and then in Alaska some types of entities are listed, or groupings. The NOFA spells this out in quite a bit of detail. We usually we refer to the BIA list. The last one was published in 2015. I know one more tribe in Virginia has become nationally recognized, so they are now eligible. There's a few tribes in the east that are also eligible to apply. If you have any questions about that, I urge you to apply to contact your area ONAP based in Chicago, the Eastern Woodlands office. They know, they have the list of tribes. I forgot to bring them, but there's only about 5. And then again, a tribal organization that's submitting on behalf of the tribe. The to be determined a tribal organization, you must have a letter from the Bureau of Indian Affairs or Indian Health Services. Don't assume that you have one. Double check with your area, with people in your offices before you apply. If you're not the tribe, if you're a tribal organization. The area ONAPs maintain a list of those. Again, I don't. If you've submitted it in the past and you know that you've submitted it in the past, you do not have to submit it again. That's one thing you don't have to submit again. But again, don't assume that because it's a tribal organization, a tribal nonprofit, that you are eligible to get the funds yourself. A tribe can apply for the funds and have somebody else be the subrecipient of the grant and implement the grant, but if an organization wants to apply itself, it has to have that letter. So that is something that trips people up sometimes, so I would just urge you to note that. Period of performance, what does that mean? I think the language in the NOFA has always been a little bit confusing. The language in the NOFA now basically says that you have to start your grant in November. Well, obviously you can't start your grant in November because you will just have been submitting your application in the end of October. That is something that was not fixed when the NOFA got pushed back. Two NOFAs really got us confused this year, but the period of performance will start in February. It will also start based on the timing and the quarters of the year, 4 quarters, in your implementation plan. We'll talk a little bit about that. It's required under rating factor 1. So don't assume you have to start by November. We push you hard, but we don't push you that hard. You will have to spend the money by September 15th. This is a new date. It used to be the end of the month. By the year 2022. We basically have several years to spend the money before it gets recaptured. If you have made no progress at all towards your grant or are making very slow progress once you get the grant, we have the discretion, and the NOFA spells it out, to recapture the funds sooner. So put in the realistic implementation schedules when you submit your application and do your best to stick to them. If you need to amend it, that can be amended at certain times, but in no event can you have beyond September 15th of 2022, it seems so far away, to spend the money. Now, people always ask me, is there a matching requirement? No, there is not a matching requirement in ICDBG. In fact, ICDBG can be used as match for other programs. It's specifically spelled out in the regulations in section 201. I think my handwriting says a G there. It has to be, you have to be able to show that the other program is consistent with ICDBG purposes, but it can be used for some programs. Even though we don't require a match per se, we do give points if you bring other funds to the table, non-ICDBG funds to the table, and we'll talk about that in, when we get to rating factor 4. We've changed some of the terminology in the NOFA this year, you'll see. I think we started this last year. There are still threshold requirements. They are in the general section. There are a lot of requirements in the general section. We'll talk about them a little bit, but they are there, and they all must be complied with, sometimes before, sometimes after you get the grant. There's also program-related thresholds. There's also what formerly were called project-specific thresholds. We call them requirements now, but they still must be met. So a little bit about the general section. It was posted in October 2014. Oh my goodness. I have it here somewhere. I forget the exact date. But you can find it on HUD's website under Funds Available. You can also find it when you download your ICDBG application for 2015. It's called the General Section. I do have it here. It is a document that is rather lengthy, but we do urge you to look at it, because sometimes we refer to, it was posted, I don't know, middle of October. It is, I will tell you, just for old time's sake, here I am, 53 pages long. It talks a lot about the HUD policy priorities. Oh, you don't have to worry about those now. But there are a lot of other things, explains things in there, like debriefings and things like that. So that's there. I wanted to just point that out. You can find the general section. It's there on the screen. I've mentioned some of the terminology has changed. There are 2 thresholds now in the general section. Sometimes they call them something else. You have to submit your application in a timely manner. If you don't, it's not reviewed. And if you have any civil rights violations, you've had to have resolved them. Doesn't usually kick in for tribes or tribal organizations, but just so you know, it's there. These are some other requirements that you must comply with. You must comply with fair housing and civil rights. There are certain fair housing requirements that you must comply with, but then there's the Indian Civil Rights Act that must be complied with for tribes. But some fair housing requirements you do have to comply with. They're all spelled out in the general section. Section 3, what is that? Is that like Section 8? It's Section 3, I believe it's of the Housing Act of 1968. It is a very confusing requirement for tribes. Basically, the intent of this provision is to ensure that when there are housing dollars or other HUD dollars given out to grantees from HUD, that residents of that housing get any jobs that are related to that are created from that housing. We have a little bit of an exemption in that when I say we, I say tribes and tribal applicants, tribal organizations, in that if the tribe has preference for tribal members, tribal preference, you don't have to comply with Section 3 if it's in derogation of that. So in other words, if you don't say anything about it, we're going to want you to say something about Section 3, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. The last 2 we mentioned because they're requirements, but we don't really focus on them too much. I should just say that. Section 3, I should go back to that, is discussed in Section 3C of the general section. So it's specified there what that means. You will have to show, again, unless it's in derogation of the Indian Self-Determination Act, that you're going to employ what's called Section 3 residents, low-income residents, and contract with businesses that employ them. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about that. I don't want to spend too much time on it because it's a requirement and it stumps us, but it's there. What other requirements? These things could prevent your application from being funded. If you have any delinquent federal debts, the delinquent federal debts, we check with a Treasury website on that. You don't have to say that in your application. We'll check it before. And if there are any, you don't get funded, or if you don't have a repayment agreement. We sometimes make you do a survey to make sure you have systems in place that we don't use that too much. If anybody has been debarred in the leadership or suspended from getting funds, and if there's any false statements, these are all spelled out, we can't get funded. We check a lot of websites to make sure that funds are going to be used right and aren't given to people that shouldn't get them. If you do not have a code of conduct posted on HUD's website, you will have to submit it, and we'll talk a little bit about that. There is a requirement against lobbying with federal dollars. However, it only applies to TDHEs that are established under state law. So most applicants do not have to submit that, and we'll talk a little bit about that. More HUD requirements. These are all things that you must comply with if you get the grant. How you're going to contract for goods or services with small businesses, et cetera. A lot of things spelled out. I mentioned them because they're requirements. You don't necessarily have to say that in your application. These are some other things. The environmental requirements are key. You will not get the funds unless you have met the environmental requirements. We'll talk a little bit about that. Previously, CDBG grants were governed by what's called the OMB circulars, and there were regulations at 24 CFR Part 84 5, 84 and 5. Everything now is referring to new omnibus, global, everybody must comply, OMB regulations. We'll talk a little bit about those. Again, general, have to safeguard your files, you have to make your access to your facilities accessible, have to have a drug-free workplace. These things are all required. These are specific requirements for ICDBG. These come out of our regulations. If you have any ICDBG obligations, you owe money back and you didn't pay it back, you don't get any money. And again, we too have in our ICDBG regs language that you don't get any funds if there's violations of this Fair Housing and Civil Rights Acts. I mentioned we used to call everything project-specific requirements. Now we're thresholds. Now we're calling them requirements. You still have to submit the information we ask for. Don't think that just because we changed it, we'll talk a little bit about it. We want to see you address all of those things because they're regulatory. We'll talk about the requirements for all these kind of applications. So if you're going to do a housing rehabilitation grant, you must state, here's one of those instances where I mentioned that the NOFA is now saying you have to state this or that. You have to state that the tribe or the tribal applicant has adopted rehabilitation policies. The NOFA spells out that they have to be at least as stringent as the Section 8 voucher program, which in my mind aren't that strict, but that's what their requirement. You also have to state that if you're going to use ICDBG to rehabilitate home ownership units, that the home buyers are current in those units, or that they have a repayment agreement to pay whatever they owe back. You have to state that. You also, I don't know if it's on this slide, yes, it's on the next slide, that the units, when they are complete, will be occupied by low and moderate income persons. This is in our regulation. There was a little confusion about that in the last year or two. We want you to state that you will do that. This will be something that we'll look at later if you're funded. But if you don't state these things, the application will not be reviewed. I'm going to say that. I should have put it in a bold and in capital. We want to see all of these things stated in there. We don't want to see the housing rehabilitation standards. There's enough to review. We want a statement that says that you have done that. Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about what's required for new housing construction. It's probably more than you need to know, but I think it's important to say, when CDBG was enacted by Congress, there were a lot of other federal programs for housing construction. Today, alas, there are not that many. And for tribes, tribal entities, there's NAHASTA. NAHASTA is what most tribes use to build and rehabilitate their housing. However, ICDBG can be used, well, for construction to build new housing units. There are a lot of things that you must show in your application that are in fact the situation in your community in order to be funded. First, as I mentioned before, the developing entity has to qualify as a CBDO. Look at the regulation, talk to your area ONAP to see if you are, or the entity that's going to be doing the development is. You also have to state that you have construction standards and that you've adopted them prior to the application date. You also have to show, and what we don't want to see is we don't just want you to state this. In this case, it would be helpful to the reviewers to have some language and evidence that there is no other housing available. You don't have to submit a 100-page study, but we want to know that there's no other housing. and in many communities, that's probably true. But we want to know that. We want to know that you don't have any other funding for it, tribal funding, outside funding, rural housing services funding. However, if you are a grantee, tribe, TDHE, that gets the minimum amount of IHBG in the formula, you do not have to say this, because we'll assume that that little amount isn't going to be enough to build any housing. So only if you are above the minimum funding, and the NOFA spells out what we're referring to there. What else do you have to show? There's no housing to rehab. There's a lot of housing units that are overcrowded, or there are people in your community that are homeless. We know that's the case in many cases in tribal areas. The homelessness manifests in overcrowding, but we want to see that. We want to have evidence of that. If the information is not included, not just some of it, there's a lot of bullets there. A lot of it is spelled out in that section of the NOFA. We want to see all of it, and we want to see if it's not there, if you leave some of it out, again, it sounds a little bit harsh, but because it's a competitive application, we need to see, and because that's a regulatory requirement, that all of that information has been presented. So I reaffirm that, because sometimes people get knocked out at this stage because they haven't provided that. So do your best to do that. It's a lot of information, but that's what we need. And I've said that already. Don't just repeat. Explain the need in accordance with the NOFA. We don't tend to get that many applications for economic development projects for a variety of reasons. Maybe it's too hard, the requirements, but there is a requirement, an initial requirement. We want you to provide, in this case, we do want you to provide, not just state. We want you to provide a financial analysis that was prepared by a qualified party. Ideally, it should be an independent qualified party. There's a little discrepancy in the NOFA with that, but ideally we would like to see independent party. And we wanted to see in this study that the project is feasible and has a reasonable chance of success. And the NOFA spells out in this section what else you have to show. ICDBG just can't be the only source of funding. We want to know there's other money in there. The more public benefit, the more money you'll get, et cetera. A lot of subparts here also. Here's some of the subparts. And we want you to show that this is the case. A lot of tribes use their funds for travel centers, convenience stores, campgrounds. I think one applied, we funded a canning facility in either the Northwest or Alaska. At least I've seen that application. Oh, I should also add, and I don't know if I said this earlier or will say later, that every year when we award grants, we publish in the Federal Register a list of the grantees that got the funding and what a very, very, very cursory funding, description of what the funding is for. This year we posted the 2014 list very late, I'm sorry to say. But it's up there now. And when I say up there, it is up there on the HUD website under the ICDBG program, under the ONAP programs. There's several years worth there. So if you're interested in saying, well, what can economic development funds be used for? What kind of projects? You can go there and look. Some of the area ONAPs have them posted also on their websites. They have some successful examples of applications, as does HUD, and I'll tell you about them a little bit later. All right. There's some other kinds of requirements that need to be met for certain kinds of projects. We don't see very many micro-enterprises for a variety of reasons. And we do see land. You can use ICDBG to acquire land to support new housing in future years and for home ownership assistance. All of that is spelled out, and there are examples posted. You also can use some of your ICDBG money for what's called public services, housing counseling, drug counseling, drug abuse education, job training, did I say that already? computer skills, anything that qualifies as a public service. If it's a new service, if you've been funding it already and it's just supplementing other funding, you can't get the funds for it. You can only use 15% of your ICDBG grant for public services, and they don't have to be connected to the housing project. So in other words, you don't have to do housing counseling if you're building a new construction project. It can be unrelated, but it cannot be more than 15%. If for some reason we decide that either we don't have enough money to fully fund your project or it's not eligible to get fully funded, usually we fully fund them, we will prorate the reduction in your public service amount if you've requested it for that. What is eligible for ICDBG? As I've said earlier, lots and lots and lots of different things can be funded with ICDBG. It's spelled out in the regulations there. We also, I think a few years ago, we did not have this in the NOFA, but we give a lot of examples of the kind of things that you can fund. We spell this out also in rating factor 2 and 3. The most common things that funds are used for: housing rehab, land for housing, that's not that common, homeownership assistance, a lot of public facilities and improvements, a lot of community facilities. These are other kind of activities. Ironically, mold remediation has been an eligible activity under ICDBG for as long as I've been here. So you always could apply for it for that, notwithstanding that we had to set aside for that. So again, new housing construction is eligible, but as we've said, you have to be a CBDO to do the development of that. Here's where we spell out what that means. I cannot tell you how most entities have been determined to be CBDOs. If I had more time, I would have researched that. But I said earlier, 51% low of the board has to be low, moderate income. That's for the first option 1. A lot of things spelled out. I mentioned you could be a small business investment company. You could be what's called a home CHODO. Again, carryover from the CBDG program. I should also add that we have been talking for a while about the need to revise the ICDBG regulations. It is always something on our plates. Stay tuned for that. We will hopefully do that soon because we know that that needs to be done. There's a third option spelled out in the regulations, spelled out in the NOFA. And again, as I said, TDHEs are not automatically eligible. I know I've said that a few times, but I think it's very important because it's so eligible activities. You can use, it can be housing rehab, rental home ownership, public, privately owned. You could use it for grants or loans. Label materials, security devices. We tend to not buy equipment. However, if the equipment is related to needed for the housing unit, like a fan for mold or a stove in the unit, it could be okay. We've added a little bit of clarification about land acquisition. You can acquire land for a lot of purposes in conjunction with other projects. You can acquire the land to build the road on. You can acquire the land to build the Indian, the travel center on, convenience store. But you can only acquire the land for those kinds of projects in conjunction with the development of that kind of project. You cannot buy land just to build a housing, to build a campground in a couple of years. It has to be in conjunction with the project. Land can only be acquired by itself for future housing development. You could acquire the land 1 year and then do the housing development later. Homeownership activities, a lot of different things can be done. We don't see that much homeownership assistance for a variety of reasons, but it can be done. There are examples of it spelled out on the slide a little bit. Public facilities, as I mentioned, I would say almost more than, I should have brought this. A lot of tribes use ICDBG to build community facilities. They can be for the youth, and actually there's a lot of focus in recent months on projects for youth, to keep youth out of trouble, to give them something to do, Boys and Girls Clubs, Head Start centers, child care centers, a lot of focus on that. TANF facilities, special needs facilities. A lot of tribes use it for infrastructure, waste and water lines, a lot of focus recently on broadband, a lot of discussion about that here, at least in headquarters. You can use it for that. Water lines, wells, ICDBG can be used for so many things. Sometimes it's a little confusing for that, but for that reason, but you can use it for a lot of different things. I want to just see if I've left anything out. Oh, I wanted to add, if you are building housing for populations with special needs, like the elderly, I can't think of another example, but there are examples, you do not have to comply with the new construction requirement. So that's something to note. Equipment is pretty much limited, as I mentioned, but you can use ICDBG for construction equipment in conjunction with solid waste facilities. I forgot to mention those, or fire equipment to deal with fires. A little too close to home right now for some tribes. Economic development, we talked a little bit about that. Convenience stores, gas stations, motels, sometimes tribes use it for that. Micro enterprises, the NOFA spells out what a micro enterprise is. I think there's a definition in there. For loans, there's no public service cap. A lot of times the question comes up whether or not you can use ICDBG to build courthouses, to build jails, to build community centers. It depends on where the services are provided, and ordinarily, you cannot use ICDBG to fund government headquarters, government buildings, such as in the last bullet, courthouses, local government offices, but you can do jails, libraries, police stations, substations. There is a memo, it's an old memo we have on that we can provide to you. If you have any questions about that, please contact your area ONAP also. There's that. I am going to take a break. I'm not going to take it now because we still have quite a few slides to go, so I'll keep going a little bit longer. Okay, let's talk about, whoops. Oh, we already talked about that. Now I want to talk about, never fails, how to apply. If you've not applied before, there's a lot of information about how to do it. If you've applied before and didn't get in, I'm really sorry, but I think now you know what to do or not to do. And if you're always successful, well, there's a few new things this time. The information about how to apply can be found in the general section. The information is in section 4 of both the general section and in the ICDBG NOFA. Review the general section. As I mentioned earlier, applications have to be submitted through Grants.gov, which is the portal that all federal agencies use now for applying for applications. If some of us had our way, all applications would be submitted in paper. However, you cannot submit a paper application unless a waiver has been granted prior to the application due date. They can only be granted for cause. Because you forgot to submit something electronically is not a good cause. Because you don't have time to register for a password in Grants.gov, no. If Grants.gov is down, that's another story, and the NOFA spells out, or I think it's the general section spells out what happens in those cases. We need you to submit the request in writing. It can be by email or letter, and then emailed or faxed, to your area administrator. And I believe you all know who that is. If you don't, I'll have phone numbers at the end. Do not submit them to Glenda Green, who is the Grants Management Director here. As I said, that was a glitch in the template. If we get them, we will send them back to the Area Own app. Example right here, and the NOFA also includes an example. If you have internet that is in and out, isn't reliable, don't have the capacity to submit those kind of documents, especially in rural areas. Alaska, this happens a lot. Bottom of the Grand Canyon, it has happened, I know. Waivers will be granted for that. You must submit them 15 days prior to the application deadline date. My advice is, if you have any sense that there will be problems with your application electronic submission, for good cause, is to submit the waiver. If you submit it and get a waiver, you have to get a response back for a waiver. And in that response, the Area Own app will tell you how to submit the application in paper and by when. If you decide to submit it electronically anyway, you can. But if you have any thought that you're not going to be able to get it through electronically, you can. We ask you to submit the request 15 days ahead of time. We're leaving it up to the area administrators if they'll accept them sooner. In other words, closer to the application deadline date. Don't submit it to them the day of the application deadline, because that day is always crazy and we don't know if that can be processed. So I would urge you, if you think you're having problems and have good cause, to request a waiver. The general section, as I indicated, applies to all HUD grants. It was posted in October. It was posted quite a bit earlier than this NOFA was, found on HUD's webpage with the NOFA. There is a lot of information on HUD's grants website. I've reviewed them all myself. I pulled some things out for this presentation. I urge you to look at that, or whoever is going to be actually doing the submission, to read those. There are, if you go to Grants.gov and go to the section for applicants, and you'll find lots of tools and tips. You'll also find FAQs. Love those FAQs. User guides, how to register, videos. I must say, I didn't take the time to watch the videos. Ran out of time for that. But I urge you to look at that, or whoever's going to be submitting, because some things have changed. So what do you have to do to apply electronically? You have to have a DUNS number. Almost all applicants by now have a DUNS number, or tribal organizations, tribes. Use the DUNS number for the applicant that is submitting the application. You can get rejected because you don't have the right DUNS number. You also have to register what's called, with the SAM, System Award for Management. I think that's what that stands for. So it used to be the old CCR, Center for Contract Registry. Oh my God, too many acronyms. You have to register in Grants.gov with a username and password. You have to grant approval to submit the application, and then you can go back in and check it. There's 5 steps. Here they are. Make sure you have a DUNS number. Carefully type it. Don't transpose the numbers. If you don't have one, you're a new applicant, you can get one. It's pretty fast. If you're confused about which DUNS number to use, check with the grants people in your tribe, check with their finance office, check with others who have submitted applications. Because sometimes what we see is it's the same entity in the tribe that's submitting the application every year, but one year, for a variety of reasons, they decide, well, we're not going to do a housing rehab project this year. We're going to do a water line this year, and only the housing people know how to submit. Make sure that you know how to do this and know it now. You have to register with SAM, get a number, get a password, everything, and you must do this every year, and it must be renewed. Every NOFA cycle, we have a few applications that do not renew their registration every year, and then lo and behold, they can't get in, and it's a day before the application's due, or the day of, and they're in a panic, and they can't find the password. You can go in and see if your application is overdue and needs to be renewed. When you're registering, you have to designate what's called an e-biz, catchy, an e-business point of contact. And that person is the person who, we'll see, has to authorize the submission of the application. So anybody can't just go in and submit. You must, the EB, oh boy, the eBiz point of contact has to authorize the person. This is all spelled out in all of those documents on the grants. Some of it's in the general section, but a lot of it's on Grants.gov. So we already said that. We're on step 3. You have to create a username and password. I don't know about you, but I have to write all these things down and hide them. You have to create a user profile in Grants.gov. What is the email address that Grants.gov could use? I think it was last year that Grants.gov said there was a problem with your application, sent the email back to what they thought was the point of contact person, and the email for the point of contact person, and that point of contact person either left, I forget what it was, left, or was on vacation, or something. Or it was just the wrong address. Make sure that the email address that Grants.gov has is the one that they should be sending emails to about your application. Also, make sure that your email system is set up to accept emails from Grants.gov. You know, if it goes into spam, you better check the spam every day because you don't want to miss a critical email. It tells you a little bit, you got to choose secret Q&As, hide them. And then once you create that profile, sometimes this can be the same person, usually not. Then the eBiz POC is notified. I laugh because really you see, I forgot the dash there. The eBiz POC has to log in and designate what's called the AOR. If you're from Mars, you'll wonder what we're talking about. That's the authorized organizational representative, and that is the person that submits the application through Grants.gov. There's a checklist about this on the Grants.gov webpage, and sometimes they are the same person, the eBiz and the AOR. And the eBiz point of contact can see when the SAM registration expires. So again, do this now while others in your tribe are either, if you have others that can work on the grant, are preparing your applications. Then we talked about 4. Yes, we did. Then we're to the step 5 is you want to check to make sure the status of the AOR is right. You should get an email again from Grants.gov. You can go under quick links and check your status at any time. Do that right after you've done this. And remind the eBiz point of contact to designate the AOR if you can see that that has not been done. A lot of steps. Do them now, do them now, do them now. Let's see. It is 3:10. Let's go a little bit longer. How do you get the application? You go to Grants.gov. That's the website link. Many of you have already done this. I find it easier to browse by agency. The day it's posted, you can usually find it at the top of the list. I also find it easier, just go by agency, and then ICDBG, I don't know, it might still be at the top, but the number for ICDBG NOFA this time is 5900N23. The mold one was N02. We're up to 23 now. So you'll see it. You also have to make sure you have the right Adobe reader, and you can find out if you do by going to the website here and checking. Again, you can do this today when we hang up, when you log off this website. Make sure that you do. I think most of the Adobe glitches have been worked out. You don't want to know how many problems we've had in earlier years with this, but as we know, systems change, and you just need to do that, and I would urge you to do it now. So let's go back to this. Okay, so you're downloading your application. You make sure you have Adobe Reader, the right one. Oh, one thing I wanted to say about, I guess it really goes here, is when you download the application, you want to download not only the application instructions, but you want to download also the application package. Some of the forms are in one, and some of the forms are in the other. And unfortunately, I don't have a screenshot here. But You want to go in and you want to download everything. One of them, I think the instructions there are some mandatory forms that we'll talk about later, like the standard form 424 and the the HUD 2880. That are in one part, and then the other ones are in the other part. You want to download the whole thing. The forms are there. I know there's been a few glitches with the forms there. I think we've fixed them. If not, there are ways to get the forms to work. You can print them out, write on them, scan them, and download them. There are ways around almost everything. It used to be that if you were downloading and if you were going to apply, you would have to download the application many times. For example, there used to be, and I don't think this is the case now, that there's a fax form associated with your application. ICDBG applications are not small. Depends on your application. Depends on the type of project you're going to do. If you have a lot of attachments, you may need to, there's a way to attach them to the standard forms in your application download system. You used to have to, if you were going to fax information in with your application, you'd have to go back into the application and download the application again to make sure you had the right fax form. I think you only need to download the application one time, but you want to make sure you download the instructions and the package. And you want to make sure that you get the zip file, and the zip file will have the NOFA, the general section, the SF424, which you fill out first, the 2880, we'll talk about what's required a little bit later, all the exact numbers of the forms, but you want to download both of them. If you don't see a zip file, you didn't get all of the things. So please make sure you download them. If you have any questions, a couple of different things to do. You can always, hopefully everybody's downloaded the NOFA by now, so you have it in your hand and don't just rely on what I'm saying here today, because I should state that whatever is in the NOFA is what governs. What I say here today supplements what's in the NOFA, but if there's a discrepancy, what's in the NOFA governs. That is spelled out in the general section itself. So I try to say everything correctly. Do I ever make a misstatement? Human being, yes, I do. If you have any question, use what is in the NOFA. If the NOFA is confusing, you can call me, you can call your area ONAP staff, or you can attend, and I urge you to attend, the area ONAP NOFA trainings, which will be held in the next few weeks. If you have any questions about applying, it's 2 days before the application deadline. You're trying to get your forms in, they're not working. The password doesn't work. All of those electronic application questions should go to the Grants.gov help desk. They have a 24-hour-a-day help desk. I can't remember if they're open on holidays. I don't think so. But it's spelled out in the general section. If they are or they're not. If you have any technical questions, call them. As I've said, call them first. If you can't get through, if they tell you to call me, sometimes they do tell you to call me, not necessarily me, but it is me. They'll say, call headquarters or call your grants office in HUD. It'll end up going to me. Sometimes I have to call the grants office in another floor. Sometimes they have to interface with Grants.gov. The last few days are crazy. I haven't said it that much during these first few 75 slides, but I will say it now, and I will say it many more times before we're done today. If you possibly can, do not wait until the last day to apply for your applications. I mean. I know that sometimes It can't be avoided. You cannot get a resolution signed in time. We do need signed resolutions with the applications, not draft ones, signed and dated. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Please do your best not to wait until the last day to start submitting your application. Applications are due at 1 minute before midnight on October 22nd. Not 2 minutes after, not 3 seconds after, not the next day, that day. What that means is your application has to be not just started at that point. You have had to have a application validation check done. And you had to have notification that your application should be validated. And why do you need a correct email address? For this very reason. You will get a confirmation of submission from Grants.gov. You will get a confirmation that your application was validated. And what does validated mean? That's spelled out in the general section, but it's spelled out on the Grants.gov webpage. That means you have a DUNS number right, you're registered in SAM, you're all the other things that had to have been done. They don't, Grants.gov, this needs to be pointed out because I think there is some confusion about this. Grants.gov does not check to see that you've submitted all the required documents that we in HUD, in ONAP, require. You may think that you've submitted all the information because Grants.gov sent something back that said, application validated, submitted to the reviewing agency, which is us. No, you now can go into, and I think I have this on the slide. Wait, let me see. Oh yeah, it's coming. You will be able to see what was submitted. Again, make sure OMB, make sure Grants.gov can send you an application. So, there's sometimes a little confusion about the grace period also. In recent years, we added this. What it means is if you submit your application, let's say for whatever reason you have to wait until 6 o'clock on the due date, 6 o'clock p.m., and that's the only time, that's as soon as you can get it through, get all the forms. You send it through, the applicant, the Grants.gov says it's received it, and there's a problem. You got a rejection letter. If you have an email from Grants.gov that says it was submitted before that 1 minute before midnight, but you got a rejection letter, the applicant has 1 day from the time you got the letter, email, to submit the application. So, check what you submitted, check your emails. Don't go have a beer or champagne or whatever you have, if you have that. Go to the spa and celebrate that you got your application in until you know that the application, well, two things. You want to make sure that Grants.gov got it, and if they didn't, that you know they didn't, and you hurry up and get it in by the next day. And you want to also go in after you submit it and check to see that all of the attachments, all of the information that you wanted to submit was submitted. Please do that. It's very disheartening for you and for me when I talk to you that didn't happen. Please try to do that if you possibly can. The 1-day grace period does not apply to paper applications. Believe you must have the applications in by 5 p.m. in the area ONAP region. That will be in the letter you get back from the area ONAP if you're approved for a paper application, but there is no grace period for the paper application. We've talked a little bit about this. Don't assume all is fine. Save every single email from Grants.gov because sometimes we have to do an audit. Talked about this already. Again, new in 15 is you can see what was submitted. You can go to check my application status. You can review and download them. If you've noticed something's missing, you can send it in to an email address that is listed in the, believe in the general section. But you can't just be submitting it in 5 days later. It has to be submitted before the application deadline. So, why are people rejected? We talked a little bit about this. Invalid DUNS number, passwords mixed up, you're not the AOR, there's a virus, all of these things we've talked about. Again, if you're rejected, you can fix some of these things. Sometimes the people that can give you the authority to either be the AOR or to submit aren't around. Again, all the more reason you only have 1 day if it's the last day. If you submit 10 days before the deadline and you get a rejection notice from Grants.gov, you don't have 1 day to send it back then. You have until the application deadline date to send it back. I guess you have till then. Maybe you have till the day after. No, you have, you can keep submitting information, and you could submit a whole nother application until the application deadline date. The grace period and the 1 day only applies to those that got rejected on the last day. I hope that's clear. If not, and I get a question, I'll follow up with that. It is almost 3:30. I suggest, by my clock, I have about 3:20. I'm going to take a 10-minute break to run and get something to drink, water, which is under my desk, and we will resume at 3:30. Okay?